3 frogs sitting on a log, right? 2 of them decide to jump off. How many you got left? 1? Why? There's 2 left because what? What did the other 2 do? They jumped off, did they? No, there's 3 left. Why? Who said that? You've seen me present before. No, they just decided to jump off. They didn't jump off, right? So in life, in volleyball, in sport, you can decide to do something, but until you do it, doesn't matter, okay? You can decide to lose weight. You can decide to get a master's degree. You can decide to get a PhD. But until you do it, okay? You get what I'm saying? So people, the moral of the story is today, this content that we're going to deliver to you is cutting edge. Everything here is evidence and research based, okay? This is not best practices of the highly most successful people. This is evidence and research based, meaning over years we have researched this information. We have literally researched thousands and thousands of competitive athletic parents and taken that content and given it some kind of value and meaning in this presentation. So I really encourage you. By the way, for those of you standing, there's still seats over here. You know, because an hour and a half is a long time to stand, okay? All right. So where's Melanie? Okay, there you go. All right, here we go. So let me introduce who we are and a little bit about us before we get started so you know our competencies and acumen, if you will, okay? So Melanie she plays many roles in life, but in this context, dual. Number 1, she's my wife. Number 2, she's my business partner in DK2 Motivation and Performance, okay? And her presence is very relevant here. She's an ex-Division I volleyball player at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, okay?
Roll Tide.
And she played pro indoor and pro outdoor volleyball, okay? So she's got a real relevant context here. Went to Columbine High School. Multiple athlete, state champion in the 100-meter hurdles, okay? Coached many national champion track athletes. Coached volleyball at the high school level, at the club level, okay? She coached club at a rival right across town here, Front Range, boo, right? No. Sorry about that, Jim Murray, okay? But she's one of the best athletes ever out of Colorado. She also has a counseling degree. So she works with students and families, helping them choose make college selections, both from the academic and the athletic perspective. Really a valuable piece in what we do, okay? Stacy's an intern with us this year. She's acquiring her master's degree in counseling, has a real interest in sports. She's coached for many years, coaching at Valor High School right now, coaching track. She's a former sprinter herself. So she's here helping us as well, okay? And then myself, I'm Dr. Rick Perea, PhD. Let me explain what my PhD is in, and this is very relevant here, okay? My PhD is in industrial organizational psychology. And that means we learn how to help organizations perform at peak levels with mental enhancement, okay, and human capital. However, my dissertation and my comprehensive exam were centered around sport and how athletes and coaches work with each other, okay? So it's very specific to that. And it really, I think, is germane or relevant in this context, all right? I'm an ex-athlete myself, so I've been here. Not a volleyball player, but a football player, okay? So all that, I think, adds up to us having some credibility and some experience. Now, the last thing before we get started, I have a 24-year-old daughter who ended up playing soccer at Arizona State, okay? Went to Cherry Creek High School. She played volleyball there, soccer, ran track. She's a 2-time national champion in the 100-meter hurdles. So we've coached her, and specifically Melanie has coached her to national championships, okay? So not to sit here and say we know everything, but we've done it too, Not just that I have a PhD, we've coached high-level athletes in our own family, in our home. So we've made it work. We've been through what you're going through right now. And just so we let you know you understand, there are challenges to parenting elite athletes. There are challenges to parenting adolescent athletes, okay? And so we're here to help you. We're here to help you understand that because there's more and more challenges our children have every day, okay? Last thing, I teach at the University of Colorado and Metro State. I teach sports psychology, and I also teach adolescent psychology. And that's relevant here because adolescent is a really important stage in our children and athletes' development, okay? Understanding the identity changes, the identity development that your athlete is going through right now is so important. A lot of us have intentions of really doing things that our children aren't ready to do, psychologically, mentally. Adolescents' brains are far from fully developed, and we have to understand that. We're going to talk about that today, okay? And then finally, I'll give you testimony into some of the mistakes that I made as a parent and as a coach, all right? Okay, so we ready? I'm excited. Let's get fired up. You guys ready? Yeah. Let's have fun today, okay? All right, here we go. All right, so now, here we go. We're going to build some context, people. Now, over 50 million adolescents play youth sport in America. 50 million, okay? It's a lot of kids playing a multitude of sports, all right? Peaking at the age of 12. So that means at 12 years old, there's more athletes than at any other time. In other words, at 13, there's some attrition, 14, 15, all the way up to 18 years of age when we literally have a fraction of who started at 12, okay? Now, I need some participation. Why is that? Why do we start at 12 and then little by little, kids drop off? Burnout, what does that mean?
They just get too tired too much.
Tired too much. Why? Give me a reason why. And anybody can answer this. Why, people? Say it again.
Too busy. Got too much going on at school.
Okay, too busy. Pressure, what does that mean? Pressure from who? From parents? That's not why we brought you, by the way, okay? But parents, teachers, coaches, who said that? Ooh. Themselves, okay? A lot of factors that go into that, all right? Number two, by the time adolescents, that's your 18 year age, are only a small level, okay? Now, so the thing I want you to understand is 3 to 4 of 10 youth will drop out of competitive sport by next season, okay? That's a fair amount. We researched this. We wanted to know why. Why? Because really, in reality, we understand that you try a sport, doesn't fit, okay? We understand that stuff happens. But we wanted to know if athletes are dropping out for the wrong reasons, okay? Perceiving themselves as not good. Perceiving themselves as not competent or not able to perform at a certain level, okay? And we don't want that to happen. The original intent of youth sport is 3 things. 1, socialization. 2, what do you think it is? Fun. Gosh, imagine that. Fun. And then what's the third one? Huh? Yeah, who said health? Yeah, physiological and psychological health. My gosh, we have 3 young boys, 5, 7, and 10, okay? And if they don't get to go out on recess that day, oh my gosh, the other day when the Cherry Creek schools had perimeter lockdown, my sons came home and they were running into the walls because they didn't get to go outside and run around. People's sport helps our kids bleed off energy. Those are the 3 original intents. You know today that oftentimes there's 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 reasons why kids are playing, okay? All right, so developmental psychologists tell us that adolescence is a critical period for development of self-conceptualization and self-esteem. As such, sport activity has important lifelong effects on personality and development of your athletes. I'm not a developmental psychologist, but I am an adolescent competent psychologist. And I'm here to tell you this word right here, people. Self-concept is huge for our adolescents at this age. And I really want you to understand how sport plays a role in that. How volleyball plays a role. How many of you have athletes play multiple sports? Okay, several of you do. Some of them haven't decided if they're going to pursue volleyball in college. Okay, they're figuring out their identity. Does that make sense? Even if you don't play sport, adolescents have a tough time figuring out their identity, right? Color their hair, try this. Now these body piercings, they try that. They're trying to figure out who they are. And if we're not really careful in sport, we can impact that self-concept in a way that'll have lifelong effects. Now, we want them to be positive. Most of your experiences here at Momentum, no doubt, will be positive. Even the tough struggles. In fact, struggles are really what help you learn to overcome obstacles. We call that self-efficacy. It means that you know you can overcome obstacles in the face of adversity, right? That's part of what's wonderful about sport. You have to overcome a lot of stuff. We want our athletes to learn that. In fact, if I'm hiring somebody for a job and everything else is equal and you give me one's an athlete, an ex-athlete, one's not, I'm going to take that athlete every time. Why? Huh? Discipline. What else? What does that athlete have in their background? Team. What's that?
Wins and losses.
What does that mean?
Success and failures.
Okay.
And vice versa.
Okay, so they've experienced that, right? So if you're behind 2 sets and you're behind in your third match, do you give up? No, you keep fighting. And that's the wonderful thing about sport. It teaches us to fight. If you lose your job, do you come home and say, oh, hon, I lost my job? You know, let's just throw in the towel. Oh, well. No, you figure it out. You fight. And that's the wonderful thing that sport gives us. Where do they draw that from? Who said peers? Okay. Peers, there's no wrong answers here. Coaches, parents, performance outcome, right? And so what can happen is, remember we talked about 12 years old being the peak? One of the things we found in research, that's way too early. That's way too early for athletes to be leaving a sport. Oh, I don't like it. I'm not good at it. Really? Who told you weren't good at it? Athletes peak at different intervals at different ages. You know, one of my best friends in football, he played 12 years in the NFL, okay? Went to my high school. He left high school at 6 foot 190. Walked on at CSU. Finished CSU at 6'6", 240, was the #1 draft choice by the Minnesota Vikings. Played 12 years in the NFL. There was a lot of people that told him he couldn't play. 6 foot, 190 pounds. He went up there as a safety, drafted in the first round as a defensive end. Okay? People, my point is that some athletes aren't very good at 12. That's okay. Sometimes they're on the twos team at 13, 14 years old. That's okay. We need to be more patient as parents. We need to be more patient as coaches. We need to be more patient as athletes. Let them develop. Don't panic at 12. Oh my gosh, my daughter's on the twos team. She's on the threes team at 14. So what? Athletes develop at different rates. And I really want you to understand that. We've researched this. It's not just, oh, did you have a child that developed? We've done extensive research with this. And the sad thing about it is there will be a player who will perceive their competence as low at 12 years old in a sport, at 13 in a sport. And so they stop playing. And we've really got to change that climate and culture in America of doing that. And it starts in the home. It starts in the home of being patient and saying, you know what? That's okay you're on the twos team. That's totally okay. You know, you look at the Broncos this year, their #1 draft choice, and I'm not saying he's lighting the world on fire, Sylvester Williams, okay? Kid didn't even start in high school. Imagine if you didn't start in high school and you're going around, you know, I'm gonna play in the NFL someday. People think you're crazy. But my point is, people, they develop at different times. I want your athlete to be intrinsically motivated. And here's the key. Intrinsic and extrinsic, those are fancy psychological words for internal and external, okay? We see this all the time. Athletes will perform at high levels in club, high school, they go away to college. Let's say they go out of state, okay? By the middle of their freshman year, into their freshman year, maybe even their sophomore year, it starts to what? Unwind. And the #1 reason research has taught us this happens is because they're extrinsically motivated, okay? Now, what does that mean? So they're externally motivated. What does that mean? There's no wrong answers here. Huh?
Pushed by someone.
They were pushed by someone, okay? Parent, just like we did before. Parent, coach, peer, social. Someone pushed them. And then when they got alone, 1,000 miles away, or you weren't there to do it, or their coach wasn't there to do it, or dangle that carrot in front of them, they fell off. That's not what we want in life. We want intrinsically motivated athletes. And there's a real easy way to do that, parents. I wish someone would have taught me this. I wish. Because my daughter, as it turned out, was extrinsically motivated. And we were part of the factor in doing that. She led the state in scoring 3 years in a row, and if she didn't have a goal in every game, I'd say, "Are you feeling okay? Is everything all right? Are there other ways to impact the game besides scoring a goal in soccer?" Absolutely. Even though you're a forward, you can still distribute the ball. You can still be a threat on offense, draw the defense. There's a lot of things you can do. So she eventually became extrinsically motivated, and I'll tell you more about that. So what I want you to do, parents, and I want you to take notes right here. You need to be process-oriented as opposed to outcome-oriented. And what that means is this. After practice, after a match, okay, that you need to reward your athlete for the process, okay, not the outcome. If you have an outside hitter and she had 16 kills and you're like, whoa, 16 kills, amazing, right? Is that process or outcome? It's outcome. Now you might say, well, gosh, Dr. P, what's wrong with that? She did have 16 kills. What's the inherent problem with being outcome-oriented there?
The next time she has 3, she'll be disappointed.
Yes, yes. Next time she has 7, she'll be disappointed. 8. When in fact, she could have had 3 kills and been more impactful in that match than when she had 16 kills. Right? Or am I wrong?
Possibly. That's a big difference there. And 16 is quite a bit. And well, yeah.
But the point is that it's the process, technique. Wow, you had great footwork today. You really moved well today. Your swing looked amazing. Your swing looked amazing, as opposed to the 16 kills. Because again, if your athlete learns that, wow, I get valued for kills, then that's what she's going to be striving for. When in fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, but in fact, you want her to go through a process, right? Foot movement, placement. You know, when you pass, there's a process there. There's a mental process. Not just the outcome, it's the process. You know, we've been fortunate enough to, one of my teammates from college is the director of football operations at the University of Alabama, football. And other than one play a few weeks ago, Alabama's dominated football the last 4 or 5 years. And I feel now that Saban signed on again, they will continue. We're a little biased because we work with them. But I'll tell you this, you can hang around Alabama football for 2 weeks and never hear the word win. They don't talk that way. They don't talk about outcomes. They talk about process. How do you get there? How do you get there? And as parents, I want you to reward that, the process. And we're going to give you cue cards here in a little bit that you're going to take home with you. As little reminders, they're pretty cool, okay? And in there it says reward process, not outcome. And that'll begin to build a foundation that your athlete is intrinsically motivated. There's a lot of parents in this room, your daughter is going to get a volleyball scholarship. That's just the reality, okay? I don't know how many, but there's a lot of you in here. When she goes away and plays, do you want her intrinsically or extrinsically motivated? Right, and it starts now. It starts now. And again, I'm a little biased in this because you're here with me, but for parents that don't know this, I didn't know it. Heck, I was a professional athlete. She's a professional athlete. I didn't know it. People, it's the cutting edge. We work with college teams all over America, club teams, helping them understand that different kind of motivation. Okay? You always think, yeah, we want to win. That's outcome. Yeah, you do. But the winning is a symptom of the process. Winning is a symptom of the process. We work with women's basketball over at Metro, and Tanya Have is the head coach. She played under Pat Summitt at Tennessee, for those of you who know basketball. But we were working with their athletes, and one of their athletes, I was talking about process versus outcome, and I said, somebody give me an example of what that's similar to, or an analogy. And she said it really well. What'd she say? You don't remember. I do. She said it's like putting on perfume before your deodorant. How many of you do that? Do some of you put perfume on before deodorant? Guys put on perfume? Who puts on deodorant first, then their perfume? Now, wait, how come nobody does anybody wear perfume anymore? Ladies, do you wear perfume? What do you put on first? First, then perfume. Okay, good. Non-verbally. I have seen this for years. Some parents have an elaborate nonverbal system. Man, they can just look and, it can just be eye contact and that says something, okay? I had a little system with my daughter. If she made a play out there and I just used to kind of go, and she'd look over at me and I looked back and I was like, how could I have done that? What was I thinking? Because non-verbally, what did I just communicate to her? What'd you say? Who said that? What'd you say the first time?
I said you suck.
Oh. You're pretty much saying that. You suck. I thought you said you're trash. I was like, wow. Somebody did say that. Yes, they did. Somebody said that. But essentially, you're communicating, man, you're not doing very well. Do we want to communicate that to our athletes? Our job is to build them. Are they going to make bad plays? Heck yes. That's the reality. Here's somebody that played pro indoor out. Did you make mistakes?
A lot. It seems like I made more mistakes than I was successful. Really, I did. When you think of hitting percentages, my hitting percentage was probably less than 200 as an outside hitter, and so that's not very good. I made a lot of errors. I shanked a lot of balls. I had a lot of missed serves. I missed serves at the pro. I missed a jump serve. Probably missed some jump serves at the pro level. You're gonna make mistakes,
yeah.
And that's normal.
Yeah.
Now, if I made a mistake and every time I looked in the bleachers and saw a parent going, putting their hands in their face or turning away, standing up and leaving, then I probably would have started to think, gosh, I'm a huge failure. I cannot make those mistakes. I'm a failure to my parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, important. We were in Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago, and we watched, who did they play? Arkansas?
Arkansas.
We watched women's volleyball, Alabama and Arkansas, and there's this outside hitter, and she was shanking passes left and right. I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, right?
Right.
She was shanking balls, and I said to Melanie, I says, why doesn't that coach pull her out? My gosh, she's killing the team. And this was, a few minutes into the first match, and then all of a sudden she hit. And it was like, boom. Yeah, I mean, she's like hitting 10-foot line. And I'm like, now I understand why she's not out of the match, right? I mean, and then so I said to me, I said, no, but I said, is that mental? What's going on with her? Why is she shanking all those balls?
Well, they were trying to pull her out of her game because she was their #1 hitter, and she was like the third, according to statistics, outcome-oriented, she was like the third highest hitting percentage in the SEC. So Alabama was probably targeting her. So she was getting most of the serves, so she was shaking quite a bit.
Right, yeah. But that's a big piece on nonverbal communication, people. You've got to be, you can think things, you can feel things, you can think, gosh, she sucks out there. But you can't say it, okay? Yeah, you can feel that she sucks, you can think that she sucks, but you can't communicate that verbally and non-verbally. You've really got to do your best. We were working with a volleyball athlete recently, and one of the things we do is we collect data. And part of data is observing them, watching them play. And so we go to watch this player in training, and her father's there. And she shanked a few balls. And her dad gets up and walks out of the room, out of the gym. And I looked over at Melanie and I was like, oh my gosh, we are collecting some rich data here. Because he knew we were there. And he still couldn't regulate his own behavior to maintain for his daughter. So later on, when we got further on to our consultation and working with her, we asked her, how do you feel when your dad gets up and walks out of the room? And I don't like to use profanity, but there's no other way to put this. She says, like a piece of shit. And when I communicated that to her dad, and I said, I know you love your daughter more than anything. I don't doubt that one bit. But do you see the impact that this can have on her and her performance? And when we really illuminated and highlighted that for him, it really became something in the family that needed to be regulated. And he understood, I've got to regulate my behavior for my athlete. Again, you can feel these things. That's normal. I'm not asking you not to have feelings. But you just can't show it. You can't say it. Okay? So if your daughter's not playing well, do your very best. Just keep working. Keep working. That's totally fine. Okay? Just keep encouraging them. But to really get disgusted, that's only breaking them down. And it's not just verbal, it's nonverbal. They live with you. They know your nonverbal cues better than anybody. And so when they see that you're disappointed, that is going to infiltrate them on the floor. So you've really got to be solid with that, nonverbal communication. Okay? Does that make sense? So turn your child over to the coach. People, the #1 thing they need from you, they need you to be their what? Parent. That's what you are. You're their parent. You're not their coach. I don't care how much you know. There's probably some Division I volleyball players in here. Probably. Statistically speaking, there are probably. Okay? I don't care if you're a 4-time All-American. Remain in the spectator area during games. This sounds like just simple knowledge, but there's always those parents that think they're a little bit special. I did. I used to go to my daughter's soccer games, and I'd stand all by myself. Oh, okay, well, yeah, I know a little more about this game, so I'm going to stand over here. Not with all the parents, right? No. Okay? You're not special. You are. Wait, that didn't come out right. You are special, but you're not special among parents. Okay? Or I'm going to be standing over here where you can see me, okay? Where I can give you nonverbal cues. No. Okay? Stay with the rest of the group. Be supportive. That's the main key. Don't advise the coach on how to coach. Now, let's have some honest testimony. How many of you have done this? Oh, come on, please. On a phone call or something, come on. There's more people in here. Yeah, she's raised his hand, thank you. Some of us have done this. Any kids go to Cherry Creek High School? Okay. So David Painter, the head soccer coach at Cherry Creek, he's been there 100 years, he's still there. I called him one time and I says, Coach, I said, I got an idea for you guys. And I just heard silence on the other end. I was like, wow, okay, I was just waiting for this phone call, right? Yeah. And I said, I think soccer could benefit from some of the strategy that we have in football. I said, have you ever tried flooding a zone and really just bringing everybody forward and just flood a zone so much so you're on attack and you just have so many more people on attack than they have on defense? And he goes, no, we really wouldn't do that because then they could counter us and then, we'd be in bad shape going the other way. And he's telling, and I was like, oh, okay, coach, thanks. And I felt this tall because here I thought I knew the game. Don't advise coaches on how to coach. Again, here's the deal. Mike Shanahan, my coach for the Broncos, Dan Reeves, okay? They had kids that went to Cherry Creek High School, okay? And at least what they told me, I think they're being honest, they never called Rocky Martin. They never called the head coach over at Creek and says, hey, you guys aren't running enough of this. You're not running enough of that. Do you think they knew a little more than Rocky did? Yes. Mike Shanahan knew more than the head coach at Cherry Creek, but he never got involved in Kyle's dealings over there, okay? Dan Reeves knew more, but he never got involved, all right? Just because you have knowledge doesn't necessarily you get involved. Let the coaches coach, okay? That's really the key. They need you to be their parent, all right? Okay, here's another key. Don't make derogatory comments to coaches, officials, or parents of either team, all right? Sounds simple, but sometimes we do. How many of you have ever officiated? How many of you have ever officiated? Is it easy?
It is when you...
Oh, that's the wrong answer. Never mind. Who's officiated and think it's a tough job? Isn't it? Have you officiated? No. Oh, have you? It's a tough job, isn't it? I mean, you have to make split-second decisions, and you may not be right, but you're trying your best, aren't you? And people, we've got to really believe that. They're trying their best, right? And cut them a little slack. Because if you complain about the officials in front of your athlete, what have you given them the green light to do? The same thing. And you don't want them doing that. You don't. You want them focusing on their game, not on what the officials are doing. The ride home. This is huge, people. This is huge. The ride home. When you are driving home from a match, from a tournament, and your athlete, let's say, didn't play so well, didn't play, 2 compliments, no questions. And I know some of you are sitting there right now saying, you're flipping crazy. I have to ask some questions. No, you don't. No, you don't. 2 compliments, and I don't care, even if they didn't play, what are 2 compliments you could still give them?
Support the team.
So what could you say?
Great job cheering on your teammates.
Okay, great job cheering your teammates. What else?
Good effort.
Huh?
Good effort.
Say what?
Good effort.
Good effort, but if they didn't play? What?
No.
Team had great effort, and I really thought you showed a lot of character by not pouting, by not getting upset that you didn't play. That's going to pay off in later years. Great job, okay? 2 compliments. How many of these, be honest, the ride home, has it ever escalated? It has, right? Do you mind sharing?
Me?
Yeah, can you give us an example?
You go out to Powers, you're out in Greeley, bringing your daughter home. You'll share with her your views on things, and she doesn't want to hear it. That's a long ride home. I mean, you're sitting there and it's all there to talk about.
So what's your first name?
Kirk.
Huh?
Kirk.
Turk. Give me an example. Huh? Kirk. With a K.
Yeah.
Turk is what we used to call in football. That's who cuts you, the Turk. But Kirk, give me an example of what you would share with her. What would you say?
Oh, that she, maybe her attitude wasn't good, or she didn't give her best effort.
Okay. All right. So her attitude wasn't good, not best effort. How does she respond?
Shut down.
Shut down. People, athletes need that time to process. They really do. After a match, even if they played well or not, they need time to process psychologically. And you're going right into questions. Be careful with that. Let them process. Let them think about it. Let them unwind. By the time you get home, they may be ready to come to you. If they're not, then let it go. Start talking about something else. The movies you're going to go to that night. You know, friendships, whatever. There's more to life than volleyball. Move on to the next topic. She'll come to you when she's ready. And when she comes to you, oh, she's ready. Okay? When she comes to you, she is ready. And that's a great opportunity. But when you keep pushing it on her, what's this, why that, she's going to, just like you said, Kirk's daughter did, they'll shut down. Yes?
What do you do when the car conversation, they're being negative? Down on themselves, down on other teammates? How do you,
So you mean they just start right in with that?
like, diarrhea of the mouth just going because they're venting,
Right.
letting it out?
Right. That's an opportune time. Did everybody hear that question? What if they get in the car and they just start venting in a negative fashion, okay? That's when you say, you know, what's your daughter's name?
Maya.
When you say, Maya, you know what? I think right now you're in the heat of the moment. You're really frustrated about what went on today. Let's just take a time out. Let's just cool down on the ride home. Let's talk about, bring up her boyfriend. Bring up another topic. Or no? You don't want to do that? Oh, sorry. Okay. But bring up something else. Okay, maybe the boyfriend's not a good one. Bring up something else that can distract them. And say, you know, let's cool down for a little while. And then by the time we get home, if you still want to talk, we can do that. Yes?
Can you ask them to come up with something positive?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I've done that before.
Yeah, that's a good cue. You know, if you can't think of something negative, don't say it. Otherwise, there's a lot of positive things that went on out there today. Don't focus on the negative. Anxiety is our biggest enemy with athletes. Or, let me explain it real quick. So here we have this. We have arousal and anxiety. Arousal is physiological response, okay? Increased heart rate, increased respiration, muscle tenseness. So if an athlete is highly aroused physiologically, oftentimes what follows is anxiety, which is the worry, the psychological piece. When we help athletes regulate arousal, that helps them regulate anxiety. And if you want a high level of anxiety in your athlete, make them extrinsically motivated. Ask them a lot of questions and outcome questions. We don't want to do that. The greatest athletes in the world, there's one here in Denver. Actually, great player. He's not the greatest athlete. Peyton Manning. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are more gifted than Peyton Manning. A lot of them, physically, much more competent athletically. The difference in what sets him apart is he can regulate arousal, regulate anxiety to make decisions in the heat of the moment. Volleyball is a sport where you have a lot of ebbs and flows. As an outside hitter, you got to be highly aroused. As a passer, you've got to be regulated in your arousal and anxiety. Does that make sense? So what we do is help athletes regulate arousal and anxiety. How you can do that is the protocols of what we went over today. If you learn to let your athlete own their own performance, they will regulate their own arousal and anxiety. If you have an athlete that is still struggling with that, that's some of the services we provide. We work one-on-one with athletes, helping them regulate arousal and anxiety. And those are the two components. The best in the world are not always the best physically, okay? I can tell you that from playing in the NFL. There were athletes that were dripping with athleticism, but here they couldn't put it together. And then you got other people that are very average athletically that have 12-year careers, because right here they can regulate arousal and anxiety. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing for firefighters. It's the same thing for FBI agents. They've got to learn to regulate arousal and anxiety to help perform the best. It's no different, okay? So I want you to understand those two things, arousal and anxiety. We're not going to have time to cover them. Now, let me give you a real-world example of how my mistakes have cost me. I made a lot of these mistakes. I told you my daughter led the state 3 years in a row in scoring. And she would come off the field and maybe not play so well, and I'd say, you know, you didn't look good out there today. What's going on? And Melanie really would kind of corral me and says, you can't ask her those kind of questions. I'm like, why not? She didn't play well. She didn't look good. She says, because you know what? Athletes are going to struggle. I was an ex-athlete, but I guess I didn't think I struggled. I did, but that was very egocentric of me to not think that. And so I did that. I saw her play her first Division I match, Arizona State against the University of Texas. I saw her score her first goal in college and proceeded to ask her why she didn't score another one. Very self-centered of me. What should I have said to her after she scored her first goal in college?
Let's celebrate.
Great job. Great job. I loved the process, loved the energy. You looked amazing out there. But I asked her why she didn't score two. Gosh, you had that free kick over there in the corner. Okay? That's what I did. All right? Here's the outcome of that. To this day, my relationship with my daughter is strained. Part of it's because of our divorce, but part of it is because I was over-involved in her athletic career. I was the parent that asked her that one too many questions. I was the parent who thought I knew a lot about sport and that I could do that. And while we're working on our relationship, I can just tell you from my experience, they won't forget this stuff. It stays with them. They remember the times that you put them in situations psychologically that really was hurtful to them. So I tell you from the bottom of my heart, please, and I'm not saying there's anybody in here doing what I did. I probably was the worst. Me and Ray probably were right there together. But but it does have real world consequences. It does. And I personally want to thank my wife because she pretty much saved my relationship with my daughter by really getting in there and saying, hey, you can't do some of that stuff. Because if I would have kept going, who knows what, where I would have taken it.